chapters, early chapters, you speak of the memory associated with, the long memory of the Muslim community, which has served to entrench this thing, this coloniality, the Middle Eastern coloniality, and the pan-Islamic movement, etc. So I wanted to speak a little bit about this memory aspect of.
See, on the terminology itself, I have received some criticism and positive criticism to the effect that perhaps I should have called it Islamic coloniality as opposed to Middle Eastern coloniality.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I've been comfortable enough to call it Christian coloniality, why not Islamic coloniality?
Why not Islamic? Right.
One of the reasons was to say that they have significantly drawn their lessons from the European colonizer in the manner in which they push their agenda. And perhaps there was a thought in my head that the reinvention of the long march of Islam is significantly to be attributed to their adaptability to the European paradigm. Okay. And which is why when you look at the way they refashion their histories now, it's significantly Marxist in nature, or it's significantly post-colonial in nature, because that allows them to present every genocide as a peasant rebellion, as a Marxist rebellion, and all this. This is not there in their original records, right? Their original records speak proudly of their genocide.
Exactly.
Right? They speak proudly of it. But the moment it makes the transition to English, the whitewashing begins, pun intended. Okay. And clearly that means they've learned something from the European colonizer as well. Therefore, my choice of calling it Middle Eastern coloniality. But I would certainly agree that in principle it should have been called Islamic coloniality. That's fine. Now, coming to the long memory, it has a long memory by design. It is an intended long memory. Okay. Because when you see a religion as being seamless and as, let's say, affecting every part of your life, you also, by extension, as a sequitur to that particular logic, you mean to say that everything done by any Muslim, whether he's a ruler or whatever it is, inures to the benefit of the Ummah, regardless of the racial difference or the linguistic difference. Okay. So for an Arab to be able to see a brother in a Ghaznavid who is an Afghan, okay, or with, let's say, a Safavid who is a Persian, okay, or let's say a Turkic Mongol. What does that tell you? It clearly tells you that for them, as long as you enter the fold, I will take credit for all your achievements. And I'll present it as one solid achievement which every Muslim can be proud of. Okay. Plus, that collective memory also keeps the definition of the outgroup crystal clear, which is to say, we can keep having our internal rivalries on Shia, Barelvi, Ahmadis, so on and so forth. But the non-Muslim be non-Muslim for everybody.
For everyone.
Okay. The definition of the outgroup is one of the critical ingredients of Shatrubodh. So that you know who doesn't belong to your fold.
True.
And whether he is to be treated as an ally, or to be treated as a distant friend, or is he to be treated as an enemy. These are questions to be addressed. But you will be let's say, a member of the outgroup. The rules which apply to us, the lenience which we are entitled to give to our people, and the olive branch which we are capable of extending to each other will not be extended to you under any circumstances, particularly if you happen to be a polytheist who is also an idolater. Okay. Then you're worse than the Christian and the Jew. Okay.
Correct.
At the very least, they have one book and they trace their antecedents to Abraham. Therefore, they can be given some kind of consideration. You cannot be given consideration under any circumstances. This long memory is perhaps the single biggest reason that when the Pakistani says that the very first Pakistani was Mohammed bin Qasim, he is not being an idiot. We are basically laughing at it, saying, what is he saying? Mohammed bin Qasim comes from the 8th century. Pakistan was in 1947. That's not the point he is making. You are the idiot if you can't see the point that he is making, which is to say, intellectually speaking, this is the first Pakistani because he has come from the land of the Arabs and he has decided to spread the light of Islam in the Indian subcontinent. Therefore, he's the first guy. That's
Correct.
And since Pakistan was created as the new Medina, which Sri Venkat Dilipala has written brilliantly on, this is the logic behind it. When you create the new Medina, the one to spread the light of Islam for the very first time in this part of the world is treated as the intellectual forefather of Pakistan. Therefore, in Muslim League conferences, they would celebrate each of these heroes.
Correct.
When it was held in Sindh and Karachi, They said we are on that Punya Bhumi where bin Qasim came for the very first time, shining the light of Islam as a teenager when he destroyed the Kafir, so on and so forth. That clearly tells you that that racial memory, that collective ethno-religious memory is super sharp and crystal clear.
True. So it's very interesting that they are allowed to have this memory, but we aren't. So so you can have your long memory and you can say that we trace it back to, and of course there's a lot of double speak also. They twist it around when it suits them. But as Hindus, we are not allowed to. Right? It's like I remember having an argument with another Hindu, of course, who was speaking for the other side, and we were talking about the Babri Masjid case, and they said, well, the Babri Masjid demolition happened in and in India a republic, so that's a difference. You see what they did it in the Middle Ages, in the Dark Ages. So let's forget that. So you are always told to forget, whereas they can remember. They can remember as long as they want to. So
but the stupidity of the argument is to assume that there has been no temple demo after the coming into the force of the constitution. What about Kashmir?
Exactly.
Or other parts of the country? What are they talking about? That's one.
That's what.
Second, see, I have no problems, strictly speaking, in the Muslim denying us the right to have a collective memory. No problem. Because that is what is expected of him.
Correct.
I don't have a problem with the Christian actually having this position.
But the Hindu.
My problem is with the Hindu.
Yes.
Therefore, your friend being the Hindu is the problem. Okay. I'd say you might as well get out of the fold. No problem. Okay. And hold on to the same position.
Correct.
Don't weaponize your Hindu identity to actually kill the conscious Hindu or to suppress the Hindu consciousness. That's where the problem is. Because you're saying, I too am a Hindu. Why can't I have this particular position? Why don't you share my collective amnesia?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I don't wish to share your stupidity under any circumstances because it comes at the expense of my survival. And it is this racial memory, forget it's not a racial memory, it's this civilizational memory because we are not a racial society in that particular sense. This civilizational memory is a specific subject of attack across the board. And therefore the problem about the controversy about Cholas. The word Hindu did not exist, so how could the Cholas have been Hindu? Okay. So all these arguments are strands of the very same position that there is no Hindu continuum, there is no Sanatana Dharmic continuum. It is an artificially created identity. Had the British man not existed, the word Hindu would not have existed and you wouldn't have existed, period.
Correct.
So this is where I think I would at least on this point agree with Sri Savarkar that the biggest enemy of the Hindu happens to be the deracinated Hindu who's denying the civilizational memory and the existence of the rest of the Hindus. This is what I keep saying, that the book is meant for that audience. Which is to say, assuming that there are still people who are open to being convinced or persuaded otherwise, and there are, let's say, fence-sitters, and even people who believe that they already know, but who don't understand the actual extent of the problem, that is the target audience of this entire exercise.
Yeah.
I have no interest in engaging with the Muslim or the Christian with this book, because whatever I write, he's going to call it Sanghi propaganda, he's going to call it Hindutva fascist propaganda, it's a Brahmin Savarna propaganda and all that. This is what he's going to say. Okay. I have no expectations from him at all.
Correct.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.